What's up, you beautiful people? Welcome back to our Marriage Moment program here with Pastor Ron. So glad that you're able to join us again this week. Had a great time together last week talking about spending time together. And today we're going to be talking about communication. I asked a question at the end of last week. Do you talk or do you communicate? So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference of those two things today, about talking and just communicating. Let me share a verse of scripture with you, found in James chapter 1, verse 9. It says, "Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger." I think there's a lot of truth in that verse that we can learn, especially when we find ourselves in those times when we're trying to communicate with one another. Because if we don't communicate, we escalate into arguments. Next week, we're going to be talking about conflict resolution and how to work through a conflict without getting so mad and upset to where we both go our separate ways and don't resolve that problem that we have. But today, we're going to talk about communication. There's a big difference between talking and communicating. Let me give you an example of this. Consider the following statement. Not knowing, I feel a delicacy to articulate, lest I should deviate from the ethereal hypothesis of the never the conception of the truth. I butchered that up real good. Let me try it again, okay? Not knowing, I feel a delicacy to articulate, lest I should deviate from the ethereal hypothesis of the nebular conception of the truth. Now let me ask you, did I communicate with you or was I just talking? Probably I was just talking, because there was not a lot of comprehension and not a lot of understanding as to the statement that I read. And by the way, let me just say real quickly, that statement, basically what it means, I don't know. I mean, that's what it is. I don't know. That's what that statement means. I don't know. It's easy for me to say I don't know, or I could say that long statement. But if I say that long statement, guess what? We're not communicating. I'm just talking because it doesn't make sense to us. We don't have any comprehension as to what it is that we're talking about. So talking, we do that to convey information. I conveyed information to you on that statement that I read. But was there comprehension? Not much. Communication is the imparting or exchanging of information or news. It's the exchange of it. It's me saying something, you understanding it, and being able to relate back to me with some things that are on your heart and on your mind. I'm afraid that many times our talking leads us into argument because we fail to communicate. We fail to communicate. And there's some basic things that we need to be able to have for ourselves and understand about ourselves in order for us to communicate better one with the other. So let me share those with you and we'll talk about it a little bit more. First of all, both people need to be assertive. Both people need to practice assertiveness. Let me give you the definition of assertiveness. Assertiveness is the ability to express your feelings and ask for what you want in your relationship. I'm not talking about demands. I'm talking about simply expressing your feelings and asking for what you need in your relationship. Assertiveness is a valuable communication skill. Did you catch that word at the end? It's a skill. We need to develop that skill. In successful couples, both individuals, both the husband and the wife, tend to be quite assuming and quite assertive, in their conversation. Instead of us just thinking, oh, he knows what I'm talking about, or assuming that she understands. Well, I don't know about your spouse. I don't read minds. My wife can't read my mind. So I have to be assertive. I have to be able to share with her exactly how I feel and clearly ask for what I need and I want. See, assertive individuals take responsibilities for their messages by using I statements. They avoid statements that begin with the word you. Anytime you start with that word you, it's going to come across as an attack. It's going to come across as me going down on you and getting mad at you. So we want to use I statements, making constructive requests. They need to be positive and they need to be respectful in your communications. Let me ask you, when you're in a conversation, when you're trying to share some news and share some information with your spouse, do you do it pleasantly? Do you use words such as please and thank you? Boy, that takes the edge off so much in our conversations. If we're able to use those words, please understand this. Thank you for listening and being able to communicate one with the other. Let me give you some examples of assertive statements. It says this: I'm feeling out of balance. While I love spending time with you, I also want to spend time with my friends. I would like us to find some time to talk about this. Did you hear all the word I in there? I this and I that. Let me give you another one. I want to take a ski vacation next winter, but I know that you like to go to the beach. I'm feeling confused about what choice we should make. There again, the I statements that are in this phrase that I've said, it's called communicating. Well, the second part to communicating is what we call active listening. Active listening. Let me give you that definition. Active listening is the ability to let your partner know you understand them by restating their message. It's your ability to be able to tell back to them what it is that you heard. Let me give you an example of what happens a lot of times. You know, when we get into a conversation and we want to share some information one with the other, we don't just come and share one thought. We wrap in a lot of different things into our conversation. So if I'm going to share with you something, and let's just say I give you 5 points or 5 thoughts that I'm talking about. Okay, well, one of the things that happens first there is that upon that first point or that second point, you have an opinion on it, so you want to cut in real quick and you want to, well, hang on, let me give you my idea. Let's just hold on and listen to the whole statement. Don't cut each other off in our conversations. But after you've heard the 5 different things, are you able to repeat back to them the 5 that you heard? In most times, you're not. If you can only repeat back 3 of the things, then guess what? 2 of those things are going to get done because you can't remember them. But yet, because I shared 5 things with you, I think they know I told her all 5 things, but she's only doing 3 of them. What am I going to think about that? How am I going to feel the fact that you don't do those other 2? But active listening takes that away. And so when I share with you, I can maybe say, well, repeat back to me what you heard. Now, they don't have to be the exact same words that I used, but just give me back those same 5 thoughts, those same 5 ideas. And if you're able to do that, now we have communicated. Because what I have shared with you, you're able to repeat back to me. And now that gives both the sender and the receiver the understanding that we both have understood and know what we're talking about. Good communication depends on you carefully listening to another person. Active listening involves listening attentively without interruption and then restating that which you heard. Acknowledge content and the feeling of the speaker. Active listening processes, it lets the sender know whether or not the message that was sent was understood. Let me give you some examples of that using the same 2 that I gave you earlier under assertiveness. Examples of active listening. I hear you say that you are feeling out of balance and enjoy the time we spend together, but that you also need more time to be with your friends. You want to plan a time to talk about this. See how they've restated everything that they heard? So now the person that sent the information knows exactly how what you've heard me share with you and what we think about it. So we can get together and spend time talking about that. The other one was this. If I understand what you say, you are concerned because you want to go skiing next winter, but you think I would rather go to the beach. Is that correct? See, I like those questions. Is that what I heard you say? Is that right? Did I get the message right that you shared with me? And then when you respond to them, and yep, that's it. That's what we're talking about. Well, when each person knows what the other person feels and wants, that's being assertive. And when each person knows that they have been heard and understood, that's the active listening. Intimacy increases. Intimacy increases. These 2 communication skills can help us grow together as a couple. So I don't know how it is that you communicate with your spouse, but maybe if we incorporated this into our talking, we would be able to communicate better. So here's an exercise I'd like to share with you, and you can get these notes down below if you want to download them there from our YouTube channel and practice them out. This is called creating a wish list. Okay, let me share the scripture with you. Psalm 19:14 says, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Boy, if we had that mentality in our hearts every time that we went to share with one another, wouldn't that be great? Talking to my spouse as if I'm talking to the Lord with that reverence and that mindful attitude. In this exercise, we're each going to make a wish list. So I encourage you to get a sheet of paper or download that form that I've given you there. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a wish list of 3 things that you would like more or less of in your relationship. 3 things that you would like more of or less of in your relationship. And then you're going to take turns sharing those with each other. You'll read through your first one. They'll respond, and she'll read her first one. You'll respond. And we're going to be practicing this assertiveness and this active listening. Now, let me say also real quick that this is an exercise. These things that you've wrote down, these 3 points, we may not try to solve those right now, but when I ask you to write down 3 things, these are things that you're passionate about. These are things that you would like to see more of or less of in your relationship. And we're just sharing those because those we can think of a lot better. So we share those thoughts one with the other. And we practice our assertiveness by asking for what I need and want in my relationship. And I practice my active listening by being able to repeat back or share back that which I heard from you. So then we share those wish lists. We take turn. The speaker's job is you speak for yourself. Remember, you're going to use I statements. You're going to describe how you feel if that wish came true. Pardon me. The listener's job is going to repeat or summarize that which you heard. And describe the wish and how your partner would feel if that wish came through. So you're going to share these thoughts one with the idea. And the idea here, guys, is to learn how to communicate. Learn how to get on the same page. And then we have a discussion about it. How are you good? How good were you at being assertive? How good were you at being practicing your active listening skills? You know, maybe we need to work on those a little bit. Maybe we need to practice those a little bit and be able to share those things one with another. And this is something that can be done just any time. But one thing I always encourage couples to do is set it up ahead of time. Like if there's something that you want to share with your spouse that to you is very important, maybe go to him or go to her and just say, hey, can we practice that assertiveness and active listening that Pastor Ron taught us about? Because I want to share something with you that to me is very important. And that should kind of let me notice, if I hear that from my wife, it should kind of set me on notice that my wife wants to share something with me that's very important to her. So I need to be able to pay attention. And so as she starts to communicate with me, I'm going to listen to her. I'm going to make sure I understand everything that she's asking, and then practice my active listening to say back to her that which I've heard. And there's nothing wrong if I can't remember. If I only remember 3 out of the 5, I can say, I'm sorry, I've kind of forgotten the other 2. What were the other 2 you shared? And then she can share them again. And it's not for you to get mad. Oh, see there, I know you weren't paying attention. No. Don't start a fight. Just what the other 2 that I mentioned were, remember the please and the thank yous. We want to put those in there because we want to learn to communicate and not just to argue or fight. So we want to encourage you guys to learn how to communicate one with the other. We've talked about also about spending time together. Last week we talked about spending 20 to 30 minutes together. So I want to give you some encouragement on that as well. This is called daily dialogue and daily compliments. And this aids us in our communication as well. Daily dialogue is an intentional effort to talk about your relationship rather than discussing your activities for that day. See, it's always easy to come home, well, let me tell you what I did today. And I did A, B, C, D, and kind of go through that. And ladies, can I give you a little hint here on that? If your man had a hard day at work, if he had just one of those days where everything drove him crazy, the last thing he wants to do is come home and have to relive that by telling you about it. So if you ask your husband, hey, how was your day? And he just kind of gives you, well, you know, kind of get the hint. Maybe you ask him, did you have a rough day? Boy, it was terrible. My boss tore into me, or I had this one customer that just wouldn't. Okay, babe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. And just kind of maybe leave it alone. Same thing with her, guy. Maybe she had a rough day with the kids. Maybe the kids were just driving her up a wall or whatever. And, hey, how was your day? And she says, one of those days. Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Have a rough day with the kids? And then you can communicate. You can share those things. But here's some ideas for this daily dialogue that I'm asking you guys to have. You can ask the question, what did you most enjoy about your relationship today? What did you most enjoy about your relationship today? What was the thing that stood out to you today? And then maybe ask, what was dissatisfying about your relationship today? What kind of bummed you out? What was it that kind of brought you down a little bit? Let's talk about that. I mean, if it was me, if I did something, I want to learn not to do that, because I didn't marry you to be your biggest source of discouragement. I didn't. I want us to be happy. I want us to enjoy our time together. And if I'm doing something that's dissatisfying to you, I want to know about it. I need to change to be that which you would like for me to be for you. And then lastly, how can you be helpful to each other? How can you be helpful to each other and be able to share that with each other and do that? So daily compliments help you focus on the positive things that you like about each other. Every day, give your partner at least one genuine compliment. Something that can be like, you know what? You're fun to be with. You know what? I enjoy our time together. I appreciate that you did this with me or that with me, and share those thoughts. So be able to communicate one with the other. Now, lastly, I want to give you some communication skills to help increase intimacy in your life and in your marriage. This communication is so important. So let me give you some skills to increase the intimacy in your communication. Number one, give full attention to your partner when talking. Give them full attention. Turn off that TV, put your phone down, look at them face to face, eye to eye. Let them know that you're listening intently. Focus on the good qualities in each other and praise them often. When I'm listening to you, hey, that's a good point. Hey, don't interrupt, don't cut them off. Let them finish their whole thought with you, but then praise them, lift them up. Number three, we've talked about it, be assertive. Ask for what you need and want in your relationship. Number four, avoid criticism. Avoid criticism. Oh, that's not a good idea. Well, that's not going to work. No, we don't want to do that. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Let's try it. Let's agree to try this idea, this plan that you have. But let's avoid criticizing. Number five, if you must criticize, balance it with at least one positive comment. I like to teach I call it the PNP. PNP, positive, negative, positive. Sandwich that negative thought in between two positives. I really like this, I wish this would happen, but I really enjoy that. And kind of sandwich that negative comment in two different positive comments that you're going to make with them. Number six, listen to understand, not to judge. That will increase intimacy in your communication. Let me understand that. And I find that a good question to ask. If my spouse is sharing a thought with me, something that she's thought of, instead of me just immediately turning it off and going, that's not going to work, maybe I need to ask her the question, help me understand what you're talking about. I don't kind of grab the whole picture on that. Help me understand why you think that would work. Help me understand what that would look like in our relationship. listen to understand and not to judge. Then also, use active listening. Use active listening. Summarize, repeat back to them that which you've heard. If you can't remember one again, ask them, hey, I didn't quite get that one thought that you shared. What's it all about? Use active listening. And then avoid blaming each other and work together. Avoid blaming each other and work together on things. I mean, together we can come up with a solution. We've got to learn how to compromise in our lives. It's not always all about me, and it's not always about you. We need to learn how to work together so that together we can come up with a solution to this situation. I have a worksheet that I hand out to people at times, and it's simply called the 10-step method to solving problems. 10-step method to solving problems. And it's a good plan because we're here and we want to get to a togetherness on that. And it takes you step by step on how to get to that. If you're interested in that, send me an email. I'll be happy to get it out to you and to help you learn how to overcome these obstacles, these problems in your marriage. And then lastly, if you just can't seem to kind of work things out, well, that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm here on staff. I'm the counselor here at our church. And we provide free counseling for anybody who asks. Happy to work with you, happy to visit with you on learning how to communicate instead of just talking to one another. Talking's good. Sharing that information is good, but we want to learn how to communicate one with the other because communicating one with another helps build that intimacy in our lives. I'd like to leave two scriptures with you today, and that's this. Psalm 19:14 says the following, "May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." Boy, I like that. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you. And if it's pleasing to the Lord, it should be pleasing to our spouse as well. The second verse is found in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 27. It says, "A true wise person uses few words. A person with understanding is even-tempered." It's even-tempered. And I know, as I've spoken about before here, that opposites attract. And so a person who doesn't like to talk, doesn't need to say a whole lot, probably married one that has to put in about 30,000 words a day. I mean, that's just the way it is. Nothing wrong with that. It's just different. But we need to understand that. So if you're married to one who likes to spend that 20, 30,000 words a day, kick it up a little bit. They need that communication. They need that exchange of information and ideas together. Well, I hope that you've received some information today on communication, how to share with one another, how to be able to exchange ideas and give one another your thoughts, and doing it in such a way that we're not leading up to arguments. We're going to talk about, at one point, how to call a timeout, how to take a little break in our conversations, how to take notes when I'm talking to you, listening to you, so that we don't fall into this idea of having problems all the time. Hey, it's been great today. Enjoyed this time that I had with you on learning how to communicate one with the other. Okay? Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope and pray that you've received a blessing. Like I said, next week we're going to talk about conflict resolution, how to be able to resolve these problems that pop up in our marriage. You know, don't be afraid of conflict. Conflict is the price that we paid for intimacy in our marriage. Yeah, I know we don't like conflict. I don't like to fight. I don't either. But when we resolve those conflicts, boy, we come together. We come together. Again, thanks so much for being with us here today. We'll see you next week. May God bless you.